Hello chess friends and welcome to the Out of Chess channel and welcome to an amazing game from the TCEC bonus competition. We have here Stockfish 15 against another top engine Berserk, and this game is really special because here I think you'll see a beautiful way how to destroy the Dutch defense. Although we have to say the Dutch defense is not in popular opening anymore. You'll not see maybe the top grandmasters of these days playing the Dutch defense, but I still think that sometimes you can get surprised by the Dutch defense because you don't expect it. So many times you're not studying maybe so hard against the Dutch defense, so it can be really surprising opening for you. So that's why you want to have, of course, a beautiful preparation, and Stockfish showed here really a beautiful and sharp attacking way how to destroy and dismantle the Dutch defense in an early stage of the game using the so-called Raphael variation. The Raphael variation is, I think, a beautiful line that you have to know if you want to, of course, to beat the Dutch defense. So for those who have trouble maybe to beat this annoying opening, this is a perfect game for you. So let's see now what happened. D4 was played by Stockfish. We have F5 the Dutch by Berserk. We have knight to C3, knight to F6, and after bishop to G5 we have now the so-called Raphael variation. The idea is clear. We want to create, of course, some weaknesses here. We want to, of course, create also some structural changes, maybe create also double pawn structures here on the F file. In the continuation we have G6, and here beautiful line is the move H4, and this line I really like because it's creating already some dynamics in an early stage of the game, and that's exactly how we want to play the game with the white pieces. You don't want to be passive with white. You want to create some wild ideas in an early stage of the game. So that's why I really love this H4 idea, because after bishop to G7 even H5 is a possibility. That's the beauty about this attack. For instance, if you take now with the knight on H5, then you have this beautiful idea E4, so the knight gets deflected here, although we have given up a pawn on the H file. But look at this now, the H file is open. Here we can also have this beautiful centralized knight. Look at this bishop is very active. In the near future also this bishop can come into the game, so I would not really love to play now this game from Black's perspective. So after move H5 we have knight to E4, challenging the knight but also the bishop on G5. So that's why knight takes E4, F takes E4, and after H takes G5 we have H takes G5, rook to H8, and after bishop to H8 we have now reached this position in which, okay, we have to say it, Black has a slightly advantage when it comes to maybe spaces, because this pawn on E4 can be supported by the pawn on D5, but mission accomplished, I think, here for White, because White prevented now Black from castling. Black will never be able to castle anymore, so that's why I really love now White's position. We can play normal ideas here, E3, maybe even bishop to C4, knight to H3, queen to D2, queenside castling. So the next couple of moves I think are very easy to play for White. It's much harder, I think, for Black to find good setups and good counterplays in the later stage of the game. So that's why here, first of all, a normal idea here by Stockfish 15, knight to H3. We have now D5, E3. You see everything is good together, and now knight to C6 played by Berserk. If you take here, instead of developing, if you take out the knight, okay, this is creating maybe an isolated pawn on H3, but the problem is now that actually you are not covering anymore the G4 square. With the bishop on this diagonal, you're preventing the queen to come in on G4, and you see now why is it so important. For instance, you can try maybe bishop to F6, bishop to F4, maybe Black can play knight to D7 or knight to C6 in order to break through with the move E5. I think the E5 goal would be normal here for Black, but now look at this. So the queen comes very active into the game, and I'm not seeing good ways how Black should defend this position. Even if you play something like king to F7, C4 is going to happen. I think you could be vulnerable here really on light squares. Okay, maybe Black is not losing the game immediately, but look at this, even H4 or H5 is a possibility. So I think this is a much better position for White. So okay, that's why after E3 here you see Berserk didn't take out the knight on H3, is still keeping the G4 unavailable here for White. So in the continuation we have knight to C6, we have C4 attacking, of course, the D5 pawn. We have queen to D6, and now also a beautiful choice here by Stockfish, C5, because we want to create, of course, now also some spaces. As we said in the beginning of the video, the only advantage that black has, I think, here is the space advantage on the 4th rank. Now white has created also space advantage on the 5th rank and has now, as we said, a beautiful attacking formation. This bishop is active, the bishop on g5 is active, the knight on h3 is active. Now we have to move the queen, secure the king by castling, and maybe include the rook also on the h file into the attack. So really a good setup here for white. So although the evaluation is nothing special here, it's 0.8 for white. It's not such a dramatic evaluation here for black, but I really love white's position much more. So here in the continuation, we have queen to d7, we have queen to b3, not allowing, of course, also the bishop to get developed. If the bishop moves, then the b7 is weak, and also white is maybe waiting here black to castle on the queen side. Then there are maybe some opportunities to even create a flank attack with a4 a5. So in the continuation, we have knight to d8, we have queenside castling, c6 was played by Berserk, fixing now the pawn structure, and now f3. And this was, I think, the start of really a good play now by Stockfish. This is the start of really attacking chess now by Stockfish 15. f3 breaks, of course, the main advantage that black has, as we said, the space advantage. Now after move e takes f3, g takes f3, we have queen to e6, and now a beautiful move e4. Although this square is covered, here in the continuation we have d takes e4, but now a beautiful pass through here by Stockfish 15. d5 is the brilliant move because now the queen has to retreat. For instance, if you try to get the queen on e3 here, then it's actually not so good because you get this one. Bishop to e3 is a huge threat here because bishop to d4 is going to happen, and you cannot prevent it even if you try. I don't know, maybe e takes f3. Look at this, bishop to d4 is going to happen. You can maybe try queen to h5 to protect the bishop on h8, but now look at this. First we have d takes c6. If you take, for instance, knight to c6, then you get this one, queen to g8, you lose the bishop, and I think this is game over here for black. So that's why maybe queen to d5 in this position instead of queen to h5. But okay, we first takes, and then maybe after bishop to h8, black still has a decent compensation, I think, because these are 4 connected pawns, but they're not connected immediately. If these pawns would maybe be somewhere on the 4th or 5th rank together and combined, then it would be a good position for black. But now they are a little bit spread all over the board, these pawns on the king side and also the d pawn. White can attack them immediately, can also play knight to g5, maybe try to attack here this pawn on f3. This d5 is attacked anyway, so in the next couple moves I think white will get at least 2 of them and has then a much better position. So that's why after move d5 the queen has to escape. So no d takes e4 ideas are working here for black. So after f takes e4 was played by Stockfish, we have bishop to g4, rook to e1, and now queen to f3. Here we have queen to f3, bishop to f3, and although it's a decent idea here by black to simplify the game by trading off the queens, still it's a much better position here for white because of the lack of space. Now for black, look at this bishop, although it's active, it's aiming actually into nothing. White pieces are much more active. In the continuation we can also use maybe the f4 square. This bishop can come on c4. We can also pass through with the move d6, connecting the d pawn and the e pawn. So white is creating now really dynamics in here in the center of the board. Black is basically helpless in this position. So in the continuation, bishop to c4, normal development, a5. We have now a4, rook to c8, and now a beautiful move here by Stockfish 15, d6. There's not so much that can be done. In the continuation here, Berserk played e takes d6, but even if you try e5, maybe to get the position blocked here now on the king side, this is actually not working because first we can take out the knight on d8, and from this point on it's game over, believe it or not. Although it seems that maybe black can defend this position because black has still the bishop pair on the board. But look at this, for instance, if you take out with the king, then you get rook to f1, the bishop has to move maybe here to g2, but you get the check, and then you have a beautiful checkmate. You have this one, king to d7, we have bishop to e6, everything is pretty much forced. We have king to e6, knight to g5. Look at this, we're creating a check with the knight. The king has only one square. Now rook to f7, but now look at this, we have also this one, d7, king to d8, and now after move knight to e6, it would be a beautiful checkmate. So even if you take out here, for instance, not with the king, if you want to take out maybe with the rook here, the knight on d8, the bishop on d8, pardon me, then you get knight to g5, the bishop is hanging after bishop to g4. We can use now rook to f1, whatever you want to play. You can also play rook to g1, attacking the bishop. You can also play rook to h1, attacking this bishop. So it's a much better continuation. You can play knight to f7, bishop to f7. Every move is basically good here for white. So the evaluation is here +8 for white. It's completely winning. So that's why, as we said, after move d6, no blockade idea are working here for black. Actually, you have to take. That's the problem. Now in the continuation, e takes d6 was played. We have c takes d6, and now after b5, you don't want to, of course, take, because then you lose here the battle on the c file. So that's why Stockfish simply retreated here to a2. Even if you take here here this one, it's not a huge problem. We can still use this activity. We can play e5, then afterwards e6, e7, even then d7 is possible. So it's game over for sure. So in the continuation, after move bishop to a2, we have bishop to e5 here played by Berserk, but now of course the bishop to f4, not allowing this pawn to be grabbed. So that's why bishop to f4, knight to f4. We have now king to d7, and now a beautiful move here by Stockfish, e5. And we're threatening in the near future maybe ideas of e6. Maybe we want to first support somehow maybe the d pawn, maybe something like rook to e3, rook to d3, and then e6 would be perfect move. If we connect these two pawns on the 6th rank, then it's game over for sure here for black. But here in the continuation, bishop to d5 was played, so Berserk tried to simplify the game by trading off the bishops. We have bishop to b1, not allowing, of course, a simplification. We have knight to f7, and we have now here bishop to g6. So immediately attacking the knight here, Berserk gave up now the piece. But after e takes d6, we have king to d6, we have knight to d5, king to d5, and here after move king to b1, Berserk took the pawn on a4, and we have now a position in which, okay, white has the bishop, black has still 2 pawns more than white, but still these are disconnected pawns. They can be really easily attacked by white. So as now Stockfish will simply attack them, and this is again a completely winning endgame here for white. So in the continuation, we have rook to e8, rook to c7, rook to a8, we have king to c4. Now Stockfish grabs his first pawn. Now if Stockfish grabs another pawn, it's completely winning. Then we have king to b4, king to rook to a6, attacking further this both of these pawns. We have c5, and now of course this idea, bishop to c2, so this pawn will be lost for sure. So rook to f7, we have bishop to a4, rook to f1, a check, not a problem. We have king to a2, king to c4, and now rook to b6, trying also b3 ideas, and also of course bishop to b5 is a huge threat. So that's why a rook to f8, bishop to b3, now again a new check. The king finally gets deflected from the defense of the pawn. We're attacking the pawn here, rook to d5, rook to c8 has to be played. A very important move now by Stockfish. Also bishop to c4, not allowing this rook to get away here. Now we can connect everything. We can play b3 and then simply march with the king here towards the pawn. So here we have the rook to a8, king to b3, rook to a5, bishop to d3, and after king to f4, king to c2, we're threatening now b4. That was now the beautiful goal here by Stockfish. We have king to g3, b4, you can create a check, but now still both of these pieces are hanging. The pawn is hanging, also the rook is hanging on a2. So we have here rook to f2, and here after b takes c5, it was in this position in which Berserk resigned. So it's obviously promoting here for sure. On the c file we have the support of the bishop, the king is out of game, so completely winning an endgame here for Stockfish 15. So really interesting ideas. I think in the Raphael variation of the Dutch defense, you can use it. I still think that the Raphael variation is perfectly fine. If you have trouble, study it hard. There are many sidelines, of course. Black doesn't have to go necessarily into these lines, but it's, I think, a decent idea in the beginning. when you are playing your openings, you have to have some kind of a preparation, and I think the Raphael is perfectly fine in order to have maybe some preparations against the Dutch. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas for sure. And if you want to see more brilliant positional and brilliant attacking games like this, check out my commented chess games played by computer series with more games played by Stockfish, Alpha Zero, Little Zero, Dragon Engine, and many more. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.